Hey, what's up, YouTube? Welcome to my channel, Ask Jimmy Smith. Today, I am very excited to be bringing to you a video. It's actually a Q&A that I did with two sellers in my private Replens Facebook group for selling on Amazon with the Replens methods. And if you don't know what that is, check out the rest of the channel. But these two sellers, both individually in their separate businesses, sell over $100,000 per month, all using online arbitrage strategies and all using a prep center. So it's much more hands-off than our traditional arbitrage methods where you're buying the products in store and you're bringing them home and you're prepping them and shipping them, which is what we do in our business with our over $100,000 per month business and our warehouse and employees. And you can find out all about that on the other videos on this channel. But this specific video, I wanted to make sure that I brought it to you, even though it was done in that private Facebook group, because there's so much content that can be learned from these other two sellers that do a model similar but completely different than the one that I do. Yes, we do online arbitrage in our business. Yes, we do retail arbitrage in our business. Yes, we've used prep centers in the past, but these two sellers have outsourced the prep and ship completely to a prep center, and they're also doing over $100,000 per month completely using online arbitrage strategies with tactical arbitrage and some other software tools. So if you followed my channel for any length of time, I go through a bunch of low-hanging fruit opportunities and manual sourcing opportunities using your phone and being able to do these things very simply, but it takes some hard work, as does any business. But what they've done is they've both perfected a model of utilizing software programs to find them leads each and every day, and that they don't ever have to touch the inventory. They can send it to a prep center. And these two sellers, I should have mentioned at the beginning of this intro, these two sellers are Jessica Decker and Leigha Modlin. And both of them have done very well in their businesses. Leigha actually started out in my course and has pivoted to taking some of those methods and adding in other methods to growing her business. Jessica, I've known for a while, but she's gone through the same Replens content and Replens business model and has since pivoted to online arbitrage strategies using tactical arbitrage and tactical expander and all these other software programs. So I'm very excited to bring this Q&A to you. Now, just so that you know, if you're interested in how they did this, you can watch the whole Q&A. There's also, I've linked in the description, other podcasts that they've done with Silent Sales Machine Radio, if you want to hear much more about their backgrounds and some of the other things that they're doing. And additionally, they have a course that you can check out right now. It's going to launch soon, so you can watch live, or if you're watching this much into the future, it will be pre-recorded at this point, but you can go and find out more about their course at bit.ly/OA simplified. So the letters OA simplified. That link will also be in the description for you. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this Q&A with Leigha and Jessica. There's so much information. Post your questions in the comments. Let me know if you've got anything that you'd like me to ask them or to find out or to answer for you. And really excited for you to see this Q&A. All right. Hey, everybody. Zoom is now telling me that we're live on Facebook. So as usual, I like to make sure that there's no glitches, because I have had it. There was about a month ago, just Jessica and Leigha, you probably didn't see it. About a month ago, I started a Q&A. It was like 15 minutes in until I realized, even though it said it was live, it wasn't. So I had to redo the whole Q&A. But yeah, excited to have this call. This is one that I'd like to do more of with more successful students and everything. And technically, the both of you aren't students of mine. You know, obviously you've done Replens and stuff like that. Yeah, Leigha, you started initially in the course and everything, but yeah, so I'm excited for this because both of you have recently crossed the $100,000 per month mark, and you're coming out with a course and everything here soon. And so yeah, super excited. But why don't you go ahead, Jessica? I'll have you introduce yourself first and kind of some of your story, the background and everything. And then we'll go to Leigha after that. And by the way, anybody watching, this is a Q&A, so start posting your questions now, and I'll get to them after these introductions.
All right, so I am Jessica. I live in Georgia. I'm married, 4 kids, 7 grandkids. And I've been selling online on Amazon for, I'm not going to do the math, since 2016. And my husband and I were stationed in Germany. So I started with print on demand, which is where you don't have to touch any product. You just, design these mugs and you stick them on the internet and people buy them. And I found out about retail arbitrage. This is what we went to first. My husband was kind of doing the retail arbitrage side, and he got a little tired of it. He just didn't enjoy being in the stores all the time. And so I started doing OA, and I started fairly traditionally, just, manual sourcing. And then I kind of switched up methods fairly soon after that. Just kind of trying different things, lead lists, tactical arbitrage and whatnot. I think that I did okay for myself. I enjoyed it. My husband he didn't have to go back to doing RA. And so, I don't know, basically that's my whole story, I guess. For a while there, we had a team. We had shoppers, we had packers, and that was working well for us, but it wasn't really where our heart was. We enjoyed building community. We enjoyed having a team. But we also felt like these people were very dependent upon us. If my husband and I wanted to just take off and go to Montana, which we did, these people, we couldn't keep them busy because, we were the ones doing all the sourcing and whatnot. And so we felt a lot of pressure with that. And so we felt like, maybe this wasn't exactly what we wanted to keep doing. And so I moved to more of we got rid of them, and now I'm just doing everything to a prep center. So
that's awesome.
And that's where I'm at now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool. And actually, so Jessica, I've known you and Joel, your husband, for, I don't know, a few years now, right? With the Legends group and everything. So, but Leigha, this is the first time I'm meeting you, at least that I can remember, unless I did it at like a Proven conference briefly or something. But, oh, you're muted right now.
We walked past each other at Proven. I was just a lurker in the hallway.
Okay, fair enough. That's how I started too a few years ago. So now you won't be at Proven. You're going to be in high demand. So get used to that. But yeah, so Leigha, I'd love to hear your story. I know that you've recently done a podcast too with Jim. And so I'll actually give those numbers for everybody after you're done with your intro. But tell us a little bit about your story and your Replens journey to where you are now.
Yeah, for sure. So my journey was very, I feel like I might be repeating myself. Sorry to anybody who's heard me say this before, I guess. But my journey was really, I think I had just become pregnant with my son, and my son Brian was coming, and I wanted to make a few extra dollars. I went the full gambit in school, and literally all of that was student loans. So I just wanted to make a few extra $100 for my student loans. And I started selling books. I was literally going to Goodwill and scanning individual books on shelves. And then somebody eventually was just like, oh, well, there's this other group, and this all kind of came, somebody was bashing a noob in a book group, and they're just like, haha, you're not doing anything compared to my massive I'm so sorry, my massive oh my goodness,
need a water break. I get it.
I might sorry. But somebody was making fun of this person. They're like, oh, my silent team, they're so nice. And long story short, I found Jim, and I took your course, and I learned a lot. And I did start out in the grocery store, and it just wasn't for me. And I started some OA methods with Jessica, and also just kind of learned on the way. I did some outside learning. Outside learning, for instance, I had some friends that also did OA. I did the OA challenge with Chris Grant, which was very, very, very meaningful for me. And then I just kind of carried on. I made friends who were, to be quite frank, much, much, much better at what I did. And it's kind of been an ongoing process from there. I know that's not super detailed. I didn't want to rehash all the stories I've told in other groups.
Yeah.
Or not other groups, but on the podcast.
Exactly. Yeah. And with the podcast, so on Silent Sales Machine Radio, so Leigha, I looked it up. You've been on 3 episodes, right? So 292 was one. So that was your first one, episode 292. That was way back in 2020. But then 431 and then 480 was with both you and Jessica. And Jessica,
Correct.
you've been on 389 and 480. So for anybody that wants to know, those are the numbers. If you want to listen to a whole story, especially, kind of what Leigha and Jessica have both done, recommend going to check that out. I didn't want to spend the Q&A time though, rehashing basically probably 4 to 5 hours of content. So go there and you can learn about some of their background and whatnot. But also, what I love about what you said, Leigha, is that the Replens method, right? The course that originally came out that so many people have had success with, it's not just always strictly following the course. There's a lot of additional learning that can happen because there's so many different methods and things that you need to do to build and grow on. So like, just because what you're doing right now with a course is a Replens course, but it's still different content, right? You've taken the information, you've learned, you've changed it, you've made it better to fit your business model. And that's what excites me about what both, you, Leigha, and Jessica are doing with this new course, the OA Simplified course. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into some of these questions. I know that we've got some popping in right now, so I'll just
I know I have it on my other screen so I can see them too. I didn't know how this worked per like my previous like conversation with you, Jimmy. So I'm just like, do you read them to me? Like,
I'll read them to you. Yeah, I'll read them to you so you don't have to. That way, for anybody that is watching the recording later, it's easier for them. So, but Joe Butler said, I'm finding plenty of ASINs that have good Keepa charts, but when I try to find the products to purchase, I can't find them at a price that is profitable. I'm stuck here and can't get past this. What am I missing? What's the trick to finding products that are actually profitable after all the fees and purchase costs, etc.? So I'll let one of you handle that.
Well, I will say that that happens to all of us. That is not just a you problem, that is all of us problem. And if that happens, honestly, I just keep moving forward. I just keep finding more products. If a product's not profitable, we obviously just don't sell it. We find something else. I have 4 sourcing questions when I teach my coaching students, and I tell them, first question is, first of all, are you open in this product? The second one is, is it profitable? And if you can't get past question 2, then you just, you don't buy it. However, on the flip side of that, you can also wait for a sale, find a coupon, cashback. All of these different methods help play into kind of creating your own ROI, right? So, those are things that we also, work into our business.
Yeah, for sure. Now, what do you do? So, because a lot of methods now, I believe with yours, but especially with like Brian Olson's method with Keepa and whatnot, they're finding the ASINs first and then having to find these products. What do you suggest for finding some of these products on the back end? Now, I know that you're using TA, which usually connects with the store and everything, but is there anything else from your experience that you recommend to find the products after you found the ASIN?
Google.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, Google's always the answer, right?
Yeah,
sure. Okay, cool.
So if I could add off of that, so Joe, I'm partially reading your question as we're having this conversation, and so like when my process, like I know that Jessica, we do pretty much, I think, almost the same thing, and then we have like groups of friends who they'll have like some TA component, some manual sourcing, and it's just a mishmash of everybody's skill and preference. And so like, especially with like some of my students and just kind of chatter that I see back and forth in like, MST and other Facebook groups where it's just like, okay, like here's my computer mouse. This is a great ASIN. This is the ASIN, which is probably a pretty legit ASIN, just great example. An Apple mouse. So if you look at this ASIN, and if you hypothetically pull this up, I imagine that it's just like absolutely flying at rocket speed. Amazon's probably on it, Apple's probably on it. I don't know if they sell on Amazon, but you have this product and the ASIN itself is good. And so people, I think, like sometimes try to see like a good ASIN and they try to make this ASIN happen. And they get caught up in the process of making this particular ASIN happening. And so for me specifically, I'm pretty much almost exclusively TA. I use leadless. A lot of the stuff that we intend on going over in our course, we use Keepa, factoring in this kind of myriad of sourcing methods into tactical arbitrage. And so like for me personally, since I'm almost exclusively tactical arbitrage oriented, I don't necessarily have an opportunity in my personal process to be like, oh, okay, this ASIN is like happening. I need to go find this product somewhere to make this ASIN work. So I am using the program and using like source sites that I see on Leadless, and putting data into TA. So I usually see the ASIN and the product side by side. And anybody who's ever used tactical arbitrage for like 2 seconds knows that you get like tons of mismatches, and there's absolutely an annoying element with TA. So and I think it's also interesting as far as like making this ASIN happen. So within those searches, you'll see mismatches where it's just like, okay, like this is the TA search for like said amazing ASIN, but then you have this, well, you can't really see it. You have this clear mismatch right here. And so it's just like, some people are just like, oh, well, that's a mismatch, and they scroll by it. So you can kind of still make this ASIN happen if you go and find it elsewhere, if you see them in results, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. So mismatches can also still be an opportunity to go find that product. But usually I see them side by side. And then if I'm feeling really ambitious, I'll seek out making an ASIN happen. But usually I just wade through the water until I see like a really, really clear match, and then like go from there. So I'm not necessarily hunting, I'm wading the waters of my searches. I hope I didn't ramble, and I hope that made sense.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. So I think that there's two different things that I got out of that. So tactical arbitrage, I have consistently, and I'm not ashamed of this at all, I've consistently said, I could never figure out how to find replens with it. So I'm super excited for what you both have put together. But one of the reasons was because of the mismatches, and I just got fed up with it. But I never actually thought to kind of rabbit trail off of those mismatches to find new ASINs. And that's something that seems so painfully obvious to me now that you said it, but there's so much opportunity there. But additionally, if you know tactical arbitrage and you know the things that you're supposed to input into the program, that's where you can find a lot of good matches as well. And that's kind of where I fell down in being able to use TA back whenever I did it a couple of years ago, probably. But yeah, super excited for that. And I think that made a ton of sense. Also, just my own opinion on this question from Joe is that I have spent, 30 minutes before looking for a product because I found an ASIN that was good, and I just wasted a bunch of time. So for me, if I can't find it within a couple minutes now, I just cut it and, find a new one at that point. Right. So that's kind of my own philosophy, but awesome. LaShawn, hopefully I pronounced the name right. Jessica, are you able to share which prep center you use? This person's in Georgia as well.
Absolutely. I use Heroic Prep in New Hampshire. That's Ed Holdgate. And I chose that particular prep center, number one, because Ed's a great guy. He's very easy to communicate with. He does a great job personally, in my opinion. And the big factor is it's in a tax-free state. So when you're doing online arbitrage, when you ship that product to your house, you're paying sales tax on that product to the place that it's delivered to. And so if you ship to a prep center that's in a tax-free state, you don't have to pay sales tax on that product. And I'm therefore making myself already an 8% increase, which is what my sales tax rate is here. So I chose to go that route. Other people may decide to go the route where you can file for sales tax reimbursements from your state. I chose not to do that because that seems like a pain to me. And honestly, I just didn't want to do it. And so I would prefer to send it to Ed and let his team deal with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Leigha, you use the same prep center, right? If I remember right? You do?
I do. I was unmuting myself. I apologize. And agree with literally everything that Jessica just said. I've used other prep centers, and I've had great and bad experiences at previous prep centers. They're my favorite thus far, and I intend on working with them for a very long time.
Awesome. Awesome. And Jessica, real quick, before I get to some of these other questions, I just want to ask you, since I know that we've actually talked whenever you had the whole team, and I did a Q&A in the Advanced Replens Mastermind group that I did a while back. And since then you've transitioned to not having a team. I'm just curious, kind of what was that process? Like, how did that go for you? Because there are probably a lot of people that might have shoppers or even some prep and ship, and they're just, it's a different thing. It doesn't agree with everybody. So how did that process go for you to kind of transition from having a team to transitioning to being with a prep center and not having a team of people that you employ?
Well, I will admit it wasn't a very easy transition because of the fact that these are human beings. These are people that we loved and we cared about. And it was very hard for us to tell them, hey, this is our business. This is how we want to run things now. And so that means you're fired. No, I mean, it wasn't like that, but basically it was, though. We had to let these people go. And so one of the guys, he was totally fine with it. He was our prepper and he had other pursuits. But our shopper, what we actually had decided to do, we were doing the Abe McMahon profit share with him. That's how we had set up his salary. And what we have done is we've just really worked with him, and now he has his own selling account. We got him hooked up with a prep center. We got him, we basically just coached him to the point where he has his own Amazon business. And so we felt like that was a pretty good transition to kind of, help somebody else along, because we were just basically, just getting rid of this guy. Yeah. And, it's a little bit, it's kind of hard to trust somebody with, thousands of dollars worth of your product too. So it's not an easy transition to kind of let go of that control. But it has freed up so much time for us. And I think that's what has really contributed to a lot of our growth in our business. So
yeah, that's awesome. And you said Abe McMahon, you were doing that method with him.
Yeah.
For anybody in this group, right? I've done a private webinar in this group with Abe on his model of setting up other shopping teams. So if you go to the guides section in this group, you can find that to learn more about kind of his methods and whatnot. Okay, next question from Jessica Buchanan. A game changer for growing our business over time has been increasing our average selling price, as well as our minimum return on investment and minimum profit. What is your current average selling price, minimum ROI, and minimum profit? We'll start with Leigha there.
Yeah, no worries. So I should have been probably slightly more prepared, but the last time I checked my ASP last week, it was $50 and some odd cents, and my average profit per unit was $10. And the last I checked, my phone's dead right now, or else I'd go grab it. I'll grab it in a second. But I think I'm selling approximately 1,600 units a month now. So for all of you who are excellent at doing math in your head, then that's around what my business is bringing in, but around 50 and around $10 profit per unit.
Awesome. And Jessica?
And mine was, the last time I looked, we were at $61 for the average selling price, and we were at $12 for the average per unit.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, that's crazy, because ours is still $15 average selling price, and our average profit is probably somewhere like $3 to $4. I don't know, I haven't done it in a while. But so if you're selling 1,600 units a month or so, I think we sell like 6,000 units a month or something. It's just so many. It's a different model. Yeah. But it's something that I love, that you took the model, the basic Replens model, and both of you have kind of pivoted to what works for you. So there may be people here that love your model and hate the thing that I teach with, just the basic Replens, but there may be people
Don't hate it.
Yeah, there may be people too that, are like, oh, I couldn't deal with clothing and shoes. So how do you deal with some of the return issues, especially having a prep center? Because I don't know if you know this, but I did clothing and shoes heavily before I really focused on Replens, and I could not stand the returns, but I'm sure you've got a process for that. So how does that work? I'll start with Jessica. How does that work with the prep center and, moving forward from there?
So we have all of our returns come back to our house. That way, I'll be honest, I'm not exactly sure what the process would be with Ed and with Heroic Prep, I should say, how much they charge to process returns and whatnot. So we have all of our things come back to our house. I take a peek at it, and if it's still good, still in sellable condition, which is very likely most of the time, then we'll do a shipment here out of our house and send it in. I might flip it on eBay or Mercari, however, though, Facebook Marketplace, something else, if it's not in perfect condition for Amazon. And I will say, you know, we do clothing and shoes. That is not a huge part of our business. I still consider, you know, honestly, I still am a Replen seller. I just sell higher priced Replens. I'm not selling, you know, peanut butter or whatever. I'm selling higher priced products. And so anyway, but with the clothes and shoes, when it comes back, we just, you know, either send it back in or try a different platform with that. And I will say, yes, clothing and shoes, the returns are brutal.
Yeah, it's different. And Leigha, I guess for both of you, what's your percentage, do you think, like clothing and shoes versus regular Replens?
I don't know between the two. I do know I have a 10% return rate though.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah.
I checked my return rate because we were actually talking about it in one of our chat groups, like one of, I guess, 50 chat groups that we're in now. But somebody was just like, what's, you know, whether it was like our core group, doesn't matter. But I think that mine was at an 8.5% return rate. And then me personally, like you had said, like regular Replens, I consider like shoes and clothing regular Replens. I didn't know if you meant like grocery versus clothes.
Yeah, I mean, like, so clothing and shoes, I would say probably more traditional Replens. So groceries, home and kitchen, health and beauty, all that kind of stuff would be traditional Replens from the course, the basic course. And then clothing and shoes absolutely can be Replens. We have Replens that are clothing and shoes. We don't shy away from them. But yeah, what's kind of the percentage split?
Well, for me, I sell, like, I probably attribute my high ASP like exclusively to like the clothing, shoes, accessories, high-end beauty category. I honestly don't. I think I have one tea in my entire catalog that would fall into like literally a single grocery item. But even then, like that tea I still sell for like $30 a unit when it sells. But so my entire catalog consists of those clothing, shoes, accessories, makeup, and about 8.5%. I think one of our friends had said that, and you know, Jimmy, I'd actually be interested in hearing like your return rate. I think being mostly in grocery still, I'm not entirely sure, but one of our friends was saying that she had heard, or somewhere she heard that like 10% was like the average just FBA seller return rate. I've kind of teetered between like 7 and 10, and by all means, like sometimes I have gone above there. I think January was like for whatever reason, like especially brutal, and you know, it left us all kind of questioning, like, do we even know what we're doing?
Yeah,
because I've been through another Q4, and this year seemed especially brutal, but at this moment 8.5, and that goes down and up depending on the season.
well, that's actually really good, because historically what I've heard is like 10 to 15% for clothing and shoes. And that's what we experienced when we were doing clothing and shoes. And to be honest, just so everybody knows, I'm not saying, hey, avoid clothing and shoes. It's a great model. Honestly, the biggest arbitrage sellers I have ever met do clothing and shoes. I knew one person that did $20 million a year, clothing and shoes, mainly arbitrage and some wholesale. Like you can really scale that model. So it's just, for us, our return rate in our Replens is 2.6% the last time I checked. So we keep it really low. And I think with traditional Replens, the things that are taught, it's usually between 2 to 4%, but it's a different model. While having the same principles, it's still kind of a different model.
Yeah, and that's incredible. I've personally never seen anything like that on my account ever.
Really? Okay. Yeah. I've shown the numbers before too in this group. So if anybody wants to fact check me, you know, I'm happy for that. But Yeah, it's typically 2 to 4% is what I see with regular replens or traditional ones. But clothing and shoes, because the average selling price is so much higher, because the profits are higher per unit, you have a lot more ability to be flexible with the returns, with damages, that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of pros to it. So Mark had a question. Prep and packing is my stumbling block. Is a prep center the way to go? Any things to look out for in choosing a prep center partner?
Well, Leigha would definitely be the expert on this. She's had many more prep centers than I have, so I'll defer to her.
Well, what to look for in a prep center? I have had 4 total in 2 years. And I've been with I've been with Ed the longest. My very first prep center was with Carl Jacoby. And they did a really, really, really great job. I was suspended for 2 months in the middle of working with Carl. And I got back up, and they sent in, my last shipment. And while I was suspended, one of our friends had found what looked like a really amazing prep center in Oregon, and they were tax-free. So I had a really great experience with Carl. He was in Alabama, which is a 9% sales tax area, at least. And so for people that were doing wholesale there that didn't pay sales tax, they got the best of everything. They got the best of Carl. They got no sales tax. But a lot of the things that I buy, especially being lots of shoes, lots of clothing, it's not uncommon for me to buy a pair of shoes that costs $100 or, things that are in line with that. And so, I have to consider from a business model perspective, if you're paying sales tax on top of a prep fee, then especially if you're dealing in high ASP or high cost items, then, as happy as I may have been there, because of the specialty or the niches that I buy in, I felt compelled to switch. So that was me. I got back up, they sent out my last shipment, blah, 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 blah. Went to, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, guys.
You're good.
But went to a prep center in Oregon that I had a horrible experience with. And probably the best thing that I can recommend when looking for a prep center is communication. It is all that matters. I mean, obviously accuracy is also very important, but I was in a situation where I started out having a good relationship. I started out being like really, really happy with this prep center. And I was really, really, really happy with them. And then things just absolutely all of a sudden went south, and the owner literally stopped talking to me, and I still had like tons of product there. Wow. There was, I won't go too into detail, and I also won't mention their name, but there was like a really large blunder that happened, and like we were trying to work through a solution, and then I just literally, I stopped hearing from them, and it kept me up at night.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
So I then went to work with Network Prep, which was also a really good prep center. I also highly recommend them. They're also in Oregon. And then I moved over to Heroic, and Ed and I had a really long conversation about, I I don't want to switch prep centers. I want for my business to like have a home here. I want you to be my last prep center. And so I was very transparent. These are the types of things that I sell. Are you okay with that? What's your pricing? Is this going to be like my fixed pricing for the duration of our relationship? So it was just a talk about like, do you have other sellers who sell a lot of shoes? And this is the spread of my store. Is that okay with you? This is how much volume I do. This is kind of where my sales are at this current point, but I'm trying to grow. Like, I want to have a relationship with you. I want to have a relationship with your business. And, you know, I want to have, you know, trust and open communication with you. And from the very beginning, he was just like, yep. Like, everything sounds good. Like, this is your price, like literally from now until like we burn down. And, you know, I will say that Ed has stopped taking shoe clients. So sorry, any shoe people that are watching this. I don't want him to be mad at me. But at the time, you know, I was the only shoe person. So it was like, oh yes, please come in. I hope that helps to kind of answer the question.
Yeah, that helped me tremendously, because so I've had bad issues with prep centers in the past before we had our warehouse and everything. And so that's why we decided to do a warehouse of our own. But finding a good one is important. But to me, the most important aspect is that communication, the fact that you called them and you had this conversation, and, you know, kind of got a good understanding between you and the prep center is really important. And so for anybody that is looking for a prep center, Heroic Prep may be a great fit, but unless you're doing clothing and shoes. But also you can go to prepcenternetwork.com and find a list of the vetted ones that Jim's team, the My Silent Team community, has kind of already vetted as well. Let's see. Jesse had a question. Hi, Jessica and Leigha. I'd love to know your approach to ramping up ramping your inventory capital quickly. I keep hearing success stories where people ramp up to $10,000 quickly within a few months. I'm curious how they do that when, as a new seller, it takes quite a while for your inventory capital to make its way back to you due to reserve and other things that Amazon does. Are these sellers starting with a lot of capital to invest back into the business? This is my biggest holdup right now. So curious to know how sellers are doing this. So Jessica, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I will say, you know, a lot of my coaching students will ask me a very similar question to that. They're like, how did Jimmy Smith make so much money so fast? And I often will tell them, usually those sellers had a bit of capital to put into their business. I think anytime that you see a seller that grows incredibly quickly, it's because they had the money to put into the business, or they went into debt to do so. So that's going to depend upon your risk level. You know, I personally do use credit cards in my business. We make sure to pay them off. There are months though that I get a little excessive and happy, and maybe I can't pay it off this month. But yeah, I you know, a lot of, they're either putting a lot of money into it or they're using credit. So
absolutely. Did you have anything to add, Leigha?
I also abide by everything Jessica said. I think I mentioned it in my talk with Jim, or maybe somewhere else in the group. I've mentioned it many places elsewhere, but I started with a $2,000 credit card. Like, when I started my business, you know, I can't say that I was the most financially responsible person before I started my business. I literally started with maxed out credit cards. I used to, if I saw something, I just bought it, whether I could afford it or not. So I had personal cards that were maxed out. And after I reviewed your course, I was just like, oh, I want to like jump into this, but I literally don't have any money. And anyway, so I got approved for a $2,000 Target credit card. And so like when I was taking your course, I went to like the private label list that I think is still in the Replens group. I'm not sure. But like I went to like Archer Farms and like just literally spent time hovering there and found stuff. And literally I started at Target because I kind of had to, as that was all the money that I had on this Target credit card. And then I didn't start paying myself until at some point in last Q4, when I was already around like $50,000. Like it was literally, Amazon was a hobby until I started paying myself. But I utilized my Target credit card, and you know, I would take little chunks out of my business and put towards my personal cards until like they were finally under control. And then I also started getting like business credit cards. I was denied for those in the beginning. And then eventually, magically, I started getting approved for them. I have taken Amazon loans. I know that there's a lot of people in this group who are just like, no credit cards, and that is completely fine. But for the sake of transparency, every single penny that I buy product for in my business is on a credit card, and I pay it off as quickly as I can. And if I happen to have some interest show up on a card, I can honestly say that it doesn't bother me because my profits far outweigh any interest that I pay to my cards. That's a controversial opinion, but I truly believe in, like, this is the way it is. Because if you start with $2,000 and you're just rolling that, $2,000 plus profit into your business, you can absolutely get to wherever you want to be. It's just going to take a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. Like I told you guys, like I was suspended for almost 2 months. Wow. And exactly, I was suspended for like 2 months, and I was suspended with debts on my cards, and that's a risk that I took then. As any of us knows, like, the Amazon ferry could descend on you and shut down your account. That's a risk that I still take, except I carry much higher balances now. So yeah, I was willing to risk it, and I still am, for growth, and it's continuing to pay off. But make that decision on your own.
That's great advice. It's always difficult to give the financial advice side of things because everybody's going to be different. I would also say, like, let's just take $10,000 per month. No matter what, you're most likely, and again, it'll depend on your method, but most likely you're going to be spending between $3,000 to $4,000 on inventory to sell $10,000 in a month. So if you're at $1,000 right now, that means it's probably going to take you a few months, if not 5 or 6 months, to get to that $10,000 per month level if all you're doing is rolling the money back into it. Right. Just because of how long it might take, 5 or 6 weeks for Amazon to check in inventory, and then a couple more weeks to get the payouts, et cetera. So there are going to be people that start with $4,000 or $5,000 and they get to $10,000 in a couple months. And, that's just how it goes. But we started with $1,000 cash. We do use credit cards to pay everything now, but we pay them off monthly as well. But the points, we make $10,000 a year on credit card points, right? So it just adds up very quickly. Also, I'd recommend checking out the Profit First video I did. It's in the group. It's also my YouTube channel, because there I kind of talk about how do you manage the cash flow if you have little bit to work with when you're starting out. But let's see, Doug Hampshire.
And then Jimmy, if I could say something really, really quickly.
Yeah.
Because you were mentioning like a year you make, $10,000 on points. And I think that that's one of the really amazing things about online arbitrage as well, because like our businesses are churning out. I'm not talking about like just us, like literally anybody, just Jessica and I. So like our businesses are, we're reinvesting profits, we're growing, etc. And with OA, as you grow, you're also creating an entirely separate income stream. So for instance, like I have, I was considering doing a little video for our little OA groups that we're going to be presenting the course in. But like every time I buy something, I look at the spread of my extensions in the corner. And if I'm shopping at Macy's, like this cashback site might be offering 10% and Rakuten might be offering 1%. And so I have like 10 cashback extensions in the corner, and every single site gives you different percentages based on their promotion with that particular brand or source. So while my business is making X amount of money a month, like last month, I actually cashed out $3,900 in cashback just from making money on stuff that I was already purchasing. I don't use cashback to evaluate the ROI in a purchase to determine if that's a good buy or not. But my cashback is literally now coming up on the equivalent of my salary from my previous job. And that's not Amazon profits. That's just like, oh, hey, Rakuten, or, Be Frugal. Like thank you for this $2,000, not Amazon profits. And so that's, in my opinion, I mean, I obviously like OA for a million other reasons that I described like 50 times. But I think it's also incredibly easy as you scale to create a legitimate other revenue stream exclusively from cashback.
Absolutely. That's amazing that it's that much. I always like the cashback side of OA, but it's never been that much. So that's awesome.
You just got to be strategic. Like there's so many cashback sites, and up until like even 3 or 4 months ago, I just used like Rakuten and Be Frugal, and I never looked at anything else outside of those two. And then it's just like, oh, like one of my friends like, hey, top cashback. I'm like, oh man, 15%, like let's do this. And that's not even including, like I said, like the product profit itself. That's just like, oh, I immediately make 15% ROI on my purchase. That's it.
That's amazing, especially when you know, like even if you break even, like on Amazon, you just made that much in cashback. Right. That's insane. So yeah, I'm glad that you added that, because that's a huge piece that even if people are just doing regular OA, you should be looking for these things. I've always used cashbackmonitor.com, and it has a list of like 5 or 6 sites. I'm not sure how reliable it is, but that was where we went to make it easy. So I'm sure that you have a list as well that you'll probably talk about more in the course and whatnot. But yeah, there's a ton of places to go. So Doug had a 3-part question. In addition to tactical arbitrage, do you also use tactical bucket, tactical expander, or both?
I use tactical expander. I love tactical expander. It is, do I want to say my bread and butter? I guess. I love it. Absolutely love it. It's really worth it. Have I touched tactical bucket? I have not.
Okay. Same for you, Leigha?
I also use tactical expander every single day. I just subscribed to tactical bucket, I want to say 2 or 3 months ago. I know there's so much more to it that I haven't dug into, but I do know that there are XPaths available as part of the subscription to tactical bucket, or if you upgrade your membership, you just have full access to all the XPaths. And just like with tactical expander, that can give you a further competitive edge, because those XPaths create the ability to source those sites that aren't just in the tactical arbitrage suite. So I'm tactical expander, use every single day. Tactical bucket, just subscribed, would not call myself a pro by any stretch.
Perfect. And Doug had said for tactical expander, is it still working? So it sounds like it is. He said he doesn't see the slider that's referenced in videos for enabling it. Do you know what he's talking about?
If it's installed on his computer, then it should automatically appear in product search and on reverse search. So what I would recommend is, if for some reason those two aren't talking to each other, to just reach out to the tactical expander bucket team and just say, hey, it's not working, or try to uninstall and reinstall would be my guess. But I'm not a huge pro at fix-its.
The age-old fix, right? Just unplug it and replug it in. Okay. Ed had a question. It's a little longer, so I don't know if there's multiple parts to it, but do you guys have a standard operating procedure with Replen items that for whatever reason become an item you no longer want to source? So it's no longer profitable, no stock, too much competition. Do you keep a list of these items to revisit them in the future to see if they're a good Replen?
That would be an amazing idea to do so.
Okay.
For me, I'll be the first person to tell you that I have several weaknesses in my business, and organization is one of them. I replenish stuff all the time, but I also buy tons and tons of products that I may or may not sell again. If I can sell them again, amazing. If I don't, then it honestly doesn't bother me. So when I've had people, approach me like in a chat, and they're like, oh, well, what percentage of your products are replens? I will tell you that I have like 3 specific sources that make up a large percentage of the sales in my store, and I would absolutely consider everything from all 3 of those sources Replens. But I also buy like tons of stuff that I'm like, oh, I know I'll make like really decent profit on this, and I may or may not sell it again. So I would describe my business personally as like Replens / traditional OA.
Perfect. And also just for our current standard operating procedure, so to speak. So we use Replen Dashboard, which obviously is shameless plug, right? That's the company that I own and have created. But so with Replen Dashboard, we're able to see items that are out of stock in our inventory, but have current profits over a certain amount or current ROIs over a certain amount. So you can do a lot of filtering within Replen Dashboard to do that. I just did a video in the group for Replen Dashboard official support. So that's a Facebook group. It's called Replen Dashboard official support. You go there, and I did a video actually on that topic for how to kind of revitalize those listings and look for opportunities that are back now. So for anybody that uses it, I think that would help. Let's see. I'm not sure if this is a question that's easily answered from, I believe, Ellie. How do you scale up? So Jessica, let's start with you, since you've done it 2 different ways. You've done Prep Center and you've done a team. What are your thoughts on scaling up?
Well, I would say the very basic point to scaling up is you have to spend more money. You have to spend more money in order to make more money. And so with that is you've got more product coming in. And so now you've got to deal with that product. You're obviously going to have some help, either by a prep team, here in your warehouse, or by hiring a prep center. You can't scale up without somebody helping you. I mean, maybe you can, maybe you're Superman, Superwoman, I don't know, but I'm not. So for us, having the prep center, that was huge in scaling up our business. We were able to handle it to a certain point, and then we had to hire help. And then of course we took that other direction. So anyway, as far as scaling up is, it's honestly, it comes down to getting help and spending more money, really.
Perfect. Yeah. And that's kind of part of the course too, right? 0 to 100K. I talk a lot about the different ways to scale up. Now, it is mainly if you're adding your own team, and I do mention prep centers and stuff, but that could kind of help if you want to go into some of the more advanced lessons and modules to see some of the work that's required. And I wish I could go back and redo the very beginning, because I do think it's important for new sellers to start creating systems early on, even if you aren't going to outsource it for 6 or 8 months, because then whenever you do get to the time when you have to outsource it, you've got those systems, those documents, those videos of you doing that process. So it's a lot easier to then outsource it from there. Did you have anything to add, Leigha?
Well, that's absolutely so much more articulate than anything that I was going to say. When I get asked a similar question, I usually resort to my usual answer of spend more money on wise choices. So I had that conversation with a woman earlier today. She said that she has kind of been in the same place for a couple of years, and I wanted to know how to scale. And I had just told her, like, well, if you're spending, and sometimes if you're spending more money on the exact same stuff that you're already buying, like sometimes that's all it takes to scale is simply buy more of the same stuff that you're buying. I have a coaching student I had this really, really amazing conversation with, I think it was like 2 or 3 months ago, and they had just switched over to using a prep center, and so they were finding product, and we had talked about some of the basic frustrations of OA and tactical arbitrage specifically. And oddly enough, it was a coaching student of mine who was actually selling a lot more than I was. I was just like, they were doing RA Replens, and they were just trying to add another skill set into their toolbox, I guess you could say. And so they were unfamiliar with buying products that they weren't going to see and touch themselves. They were just going straight to the prep center. And that apprehension, I think, caused them to be a little cautious. They were finding things that they knew were winners. They, like I said, selling longer than me, selling a lot more than me. And, but they were just, buying like 5 products at a time. And so I told them, I was like, well, some of these products that you're buying are like for sure winners. Like, you know what you're doing. You know how to read Keepa. I was like, if you order 10 instead of 5, then you've actually figuratively like doubled the size of your business, going from 5 to 10, and you're not having to find as many products or put that pressure on yourself. So sometimes scaling, it's a matter of spending, obviously. And then sometimes scaling is in making those super, super small decisions, 10 instead of 5. Or if you see, I actually restocked a Replen today. That's a sale Replen. Every 2 or 3 months it comes up, and every time I bought it, like the first time, like I knew it was like a bang and keep it chart, right? So I bought like 20. And then the last time I bought like 30, and I bought over 50 of them this morning. And I've been considering like literally all day. I'm like, should I buy 100? I think I should. But those little, I mean, obviously I'm not telling everybody like, hey, go buy 100 of something, like, please proceed with caution. But like, that's me like testing it. Like every time I bought it, it sold out immediately. So, and that, we're on like, Replen 5, 6, I don't even know. Ironically, this particular product sells great in Canada. But, sometimes scaling isn't necessarily finding more products. Sometimes it's just making decisions based on your own experience with the products that you already sell.
Yeah, that's perfect. And it's something I never really think about too often, but I know that for a lot of people, it's a scary decision to be like, okay, I'm going to buy 10 instead of 5 this time. But if you really think about it, let's say you sold all 5 of those at the profitable price you're used to selling it at, and then the other ones were less profitable, going down to break even, and the last one you lost 10% on. Either way, you still made a bunch of money during that whole time. And it's kind of like, dollar cost averaging is what the term used for stocks or crypto or whatever. It's kind of like doing that if you start to buy more, but it's a great way to scale up. It really is. So, I just kind of want to give my 2 cents on it, because people just get scared of like, if I buy that extra 50, but what if you sell all those first 50 and at a very high margin, but then the other ones are break even? You still made really good money and got the other money back for those last.
Well, and if I could elaborate just like 2 seconds on that, because I'm not some wizard genius extraordinaire. Like, I make mistakes like absolutely everybody does. I was telling you about this Replen today. I'm like, should I buy 100? Should I buy 50? I have Replens that I Replen 200 at a time without hesitation. And I've done that multiple times. And, on certain sites, on certain sales, I just like really, really, really go for it, because I have a lot of experience with that product. However, there are times that I make that decision and I'm wrong. So like I said, I don't want to ever come on here and be like, oh my God, my Replen's like 200. Yes, I just got it. I have made that choice in the wrong direction before. And so I usually make that decision with confidence. And I have been wrong, but I think that it's really worth talking about just a little bit, like what happens when you're wrong like that? What happens when you're like, I like this product that I've been wrong about, that's also a Replen. I've done really, really heavy Replens of that and won. The last time I Replen this product, I think that the sale opportunity, it may or may not have popped up on a leads list, but there was a lot more people that knew about it the last time I Replened it. So anyways, I've been burned before by seemingly making good choices. And I think mindset is absolutely important when you're wrong. Like, I spent thousands of dollars on that. That wasn't a cheap product that was a high-end beauty product that I replened 100 of, and every single one of those I paid $20 for. So I've been wrong, but you know what? I don't care if it chills for too long. Then I'll liquidate it and I'll revisit it later to address like a question a little bit earlier on. Usually those hits recover, especially on an ASIN like this particular one. And so I can afford to be a little bit patient, but I think that's just kind of a proceed with caution statement that it sounds cool. And I make those decisions in confidence, but sometimes I find out that I'm wrong, and it's okay to be wrong as long as you don't let it like crumble you on the back end.
I've never been wrong, Leigha, so I don't know what you're talking about. But, no, there's actually, so I'm not trying to one up your story, but I did a cross-state trip to Kansas City one time in a U-Haul to get hundreds of units of a specific product that when we got back, the dimensions were all changed on Amazon. And so they were all negative profits. We ended up having to get rid of them just to get our money back. But yeah, we lost a good amount of money on that. That was a while ago, but that was the biggest fail I think that we had. But all right, so next question. I know that we're coming up on the hour and we've still got a bunch of questions. So let's try to do rapid fire because I think I want to make sure respect the time. Jessica Buchanan asked, with most of our replens, we test 6 to 10 items at a time. When I'm using tactical arbitrage to source, we often come across sales and deals that we want to take advantage of. When this happens, you're more likely to purchase an initial test run that is much larger as long as you feel confident in Keepa. For those new replens, are you more likely to do that?
I will. I once was given the advice when you're doing OA with those types of products, the clearance and sales, to spend as much or buy as many as you are comfortable losing. And so, if I tally up how much this entire purchase is going to cost me. And if it is just an obnoxious amount of money that I don't think I could part with, then I either don't do it or I back off a little bit. So yeah, I just would say, spend as much as you're okay losing.
Perfect. Let's see. Next question. I'll ask this to Leigha. Can you stack cashback offers?
We've talked about this. So in general, I would say no. However, there have been like a couple of times where usually if you activate cashback on one website, you get like a notification from the other extension, like, okay, you activated top cashback, and Rakuten gives you a little alert that it's disabled, and there's a click button to reactivate it if you choose. There's been a couple times, not often, where like I'll be on a page, I'm about to check out, and it'll say like 5% activated, and then simultaneously it'll be like 3% activated. And I don't actually know if that went through because I on any given day I'm usually purchasing a fair deal, and so I don't go into like that one transaction from that site and see if it like is on, if it's on like both of the payouts. But typically if you activate one, the other will deactivate.
Okay. So we kind of talked about this earlier. Did you have anything else to add from this question on Ellie? So Ellie, if you joined late, we talked about returns earlier, but she asked, how do you handle returns? Is there anything else? I'm pretty sure we covered all of that, right? Okay. Just wanted to make sure I didn't ignore it. All right. Matthew asked, what book are you reading now and what do you recommend? It can be for business or pleasure. Do y'all read much? I don't read much, to be honest. So
I love to read.
Okay.
I'm also an avid reader.
Okay. Yeah, you've got books right next to you. So there you go.
Oh, well, these are fake books.
Okay.
But
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
These are
so
fake
funny.
books. My bookshelf does not look that organized.
Right.
I'm in my basement, so sorry guys. Yeah, these books right here. I am huge into history. I'm not actually reading. I'm not reading any business books at the moment. I'm reading a history book. based. I'm reading a history book that focuses on the House of Dudley, which is also the name of the book. And they were a family that was, you know, very prominent during the time of the English Renaissance. Not anything exciting that anyone would probably want to read. I'm also reading a book called Tallgrass. I forgot the author, but it's also very good if you care for fiction or history.
Perfect.
So I just started Tax-Free Wealth and Atomic Habits, and I'm also reading a novel by Francine Rivers. Nice.
Man, I feel dumb now. I read sometimes, but not often. I've got a bookshelf, but there's like 20 books on it. I recommend The E-Myth Revisited would be one book if you're looking to scale. That's one I like. Richard said there's also discounted credit cards. I think you might have meant gift cards to increase the bottom line. Do you use discounted gift cards?
I have tried a couple of times. I did not have a very good experience my very first time. And so I've kind of shied away from them. I am revisiting the idea, however. So yeah, I haven't used it very much though. With our new, or I shouldn't say our, like we're business partners or anything, but Leigha and I bounce a lot of ideas off each other, and we're both kind of working on the whole, on our cashback strategy. And part of that though is incorporating some discounted gift cards. So.
Okay. Awesome. And Leigha, do you use them?
I do not.
Okay.
I don't. I use cashback a lot. I think I also tried early on, and I'm sure things have gotten so much more proficient, but like when I first started doing it a couple of years ago, like I remember like literally like Amazon 101, like Katie Chaddock was talking about like being in Barnes and Noble and like going like on her phone, going to like a card site. And so that's how long ago this was, like a couple of years ago. And I was like literally standing in Barnes and Noble with like some toys, like once again, straight pack course. And I was like sitting there with my toys and my phone, and I bought this gift card to save, I don't know, a few extra % off, like took a page straight out of the book. And I was like literally standing there for like 20 minutes waiting for like my card to appear. And so I had a few more experiences like that. I've not revisited. I'm sure it's so much better, but I'm more than happy with like the results that I've seen in cashback. So I have not revisited it.
Okay. Yeah, we used to do a lot of the discounted gift cards and stuff before Replens. And we used a website called cardbear.com, and they were kind of an aggregator of a bunch of different sites as well. So again, some of that information can be outdated on their website, but was at least easy for us to find that. It can take 20 minutes, an hour or more, depending on the site that you bought them from. Some of them can be 2 minutes, but those are usually a lot less %. So just because they're so much faster, more reliable. See, Jason asked, do you ever go back and buy directly from your lead lists, or do you only ever use them as a seed list to do reverse sourcing?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. I do buy straight off of my leads list at times. And I also rabbit trail. So both, absolutely both.
And I assume the same for you, Leigha.
Yeah, all the time. I'm subscribed to CheddarSoft. So if I see like a current opportunity on today's leads list, I'll go into CheddarSoft and see if there's any current opportunity on on CheddarSoft in addition to that lead, if it's viable enough to like buy that day or buy after it's already recovered after the competition's gone. Okay. So yes.
Perfect. And then the last question on here, so I'm going to call it the last question from the crowd anyway, from Ellie. How do you manage your time between manual sourcing, tactical arbitrage, and leads lists? I'm also going to throw this in here, and running a family at the same time. How do you manage your time for everything? Let's start with Jessica, and then we'll go to Leigha.
Okay. So as far as managing my time, I just have a set amount of time. I am going to source I start at 1 o'clock and then I just start sourcing until it's time for me to go make dinner for my family. And so I start off with that leads list, and the leads list will kind of spark an idea. So I jump over here and, you know, run a tactical arbitrage scan. And then the next lead will say, oh, such and such is on sale at this site. And I head to that site and I'll start manually sourcing it because maybe it's not on tactical arbitrage. So I'm just doing, honestly, it's like I'm doing all of the different things all of the time, all afternoon. You know, it's not like, okay, this is just tactical arbitrage day. You know, I'm doing, you know, everything. I'm looking at the leads list. I'm looking at tactical arbitrage. I'm running new searches. I'm manually sourcing. So I would just say, you know, I just have a certain number of hours a day that I source, and I do all of the different things.
Perfect. And I, before we get to you, Leigha, Jessica, do you use Replens VA right now? Are you on the list for one, or where are you?
I've been waiting for a VA, but I do not.
Okay, cool. And then Leigha?
So I don't manually source very much. I'm not going to pretend like I do. I also won't pretend like I'm good at it. You know, every once in a while I'll be like, oh, okay, got one. But as far as using it as a method, I don't manually source a whole lot. And then tactical arbitrage and my leads list like usually go hand in hand, where I'm looking at my leads list and then I'm looking for opportunity. And then so I'll check like that lead, and then I'll also see if those sources are I'll see if those sources are on TE, if they're on TA, maybe they're in tactical bucket. I told you guys that I haven't really taken the dive into tactical bucket, but there may or may not be an XPath that I can download to then be able to search that site in tactical arbitrage. So I don't necessarily separate them. Like, it's all part of my sourcing process. And you know, some days I'll, you know, spend all my money in a couple hours, and some days I'm working on it for the better part of the morning and afternoon. It kind of just depends on how much money I have to spend that day, how much time I want to spend sourcing, or if, you know, if I happen to find a lot like all of a sudden, then I feel like I can just be done because I've, you know, put in the work. And then like we were talking about in our podcast with Jim, you know, some days where I just don't find as much stuff as I want to, and I'll just like keep going until I feel kind of satisfied. That's not a super great answer to this question, but it really just depends. But I do lump in like tactical arbitrage work and lead list work one and the same, because I use one for the other.
Perfect. Yeah, there's you know, you said it wasn't necessarily a super great answer, but I think it is a great answer from both of you to hear that, like, you're both human, right? You aren't just like perfect work machines that just get up and you do everything step by step. And so I think that does relate to a lot of people, because we all have different things that come up through the day. And so as much as possible as we can use our time in our business and kind of just mold it into the time with our family and our friends and whatever else you've got going on, I think that that's the best way to create a work-life balance, or whatever you want to call it, that fits best for most people. So love the answer. In terms of the course that's coming out, it's called OA Simplified. And so you can find that. I do everything with bit.ly links just because I like to see the numbers and stuff, but it's bit.ly/OA Simplified. And you can get to the course there. And also the most recent podcast with both Jessica and Leigha was number 480 on the Silent Sales Machine Radio. And yeah, a lot of awesome comments and stuff in the threads. So thank you both for being on here. I really appreciate it. There's so much knowledge and wisdom, and I'm just excited to see all the success stories from the new course. And yeah, happy to have you on any other time too. If you have anything else to share, you have a free pass to come on into this group. So thank you both. Yeah, appreciate you both. Have a great day and a blessed rest of your week.
You too.
Thanks. Bye. Hey, thank you so much for checking out that Q&A with Jessica and Leigha. I know that there's a ton of information that we went through. There's some very basic questions to some much more advanced questions in terms of the strategies that they use with tactical arbitrage and tactical expander, et cetera. But ultimately, I wanted to make this outro of this video to let you know that if you're interested in their course, which is called OA Simplified, if you're interested in that, you can head to my link at bit.ly/OA Simplified. The link is also in the description. It's going to be a course that's done live depending on when you see this. So if you're seeing this in a few months from now, from whenever I'm recording this in June, then it might be pre-recorded. But if you get in now before it gets started, you can watch with them live. You can ask questions and see the awesome methods. What I love about it too is that you've got two separate sellers with two separate businesses doing $100,000 per month in their business using these same methods. So you've got two amazingly experienced women that have done well in their businesses and are continuing to show that and help other people do that. Additionally, they're also coaches. And so I'll put a link below for the coaching program that they're a part of that I've recommended in all my videos as well, which is the Jim Cockrum coaching program. So if you're interested in any type of coaching through that program, you can go to that link in the description. But anyway, if you like this video, please like it. Share the video, subscribe to the channel. Let me know if you've got any questions or comments below. I do read as many of them as I can and respond to as many as I can as well. So I hope that you have a great rest of your day and a blessed rest of your week.